Here is Alaa Khalaf. Alaa is Palestinian-Canadian, originally from Gaza, and as we speak, she has family members trapped in Gaza now.
So I'd just like to start off by saying I'm a Palestinian-Canadian from Gaza. My family is in complete danger right now. Their lives are in a complete mess. While this latest attack is new in terms of scope, it is by no means new in terms of the ongoing violence that's perpetuated by the Israeli government upon the innocent men, children, and women in Palestine. One thing that's very clear is that the war crimes against the Palestinians is not just killing Hamas militants, it's the children, women who are bruised, shedding not only blood, but limb and life, burying innocent lives in terrifying numbers. Innocent civilians' homes are being demolished by the Israeli attacks. My aunt, who's currently living under this occupation, just informed us 2 nights ago that a bus full of children was hit by an air bomb. A mother witnessed the shedding of blood and scattered limbs of her 3 younger children as she waited to pick them up from the station. My mother's aunt's house was demolished just last night. Luckily, they'd moved out just before the attack. My family's okay so far, but they barely have any food. They have no electricity, very little running water, and many of their friends and neighbors have been killed due to the shortage of medical care. And I question where in the documents of international law or human rights has Israel been given the right to do any of this? Ordinary people, teachers, lawyers, students, women, they have needs. They need food. They need medication. And none of these things are being allowed except in the absolute minimum. In the name of retaliation, Israel indiscriminately targets and strikes, killing hundreds and thousands of innocent civilians. Collective punishment of the entire population is clearly taking place. We have become almost desensitized to the violence that we watch. In this country, Canada, where it has worked so hard to fight against us, we tend to instill in our citizens the belief that rape, murder of women, harm to children, varying from neglect, abuse, starvation, to be staunchly opposed on any and every measure taken to rid our society of it, to be pursued. Well, what about the massacre that right now that's happening to the Palestinian children and the women? The psychological trauma, the mental emotional abuse, the severe neglect, especially that many are witnesses to the murder of their loved ones. On a daily basis, my family and I are trying to contact my grandmother who lives on her own and my aunt at least 2-3 times a day to ensure that they are still alive and well. And as Canadians here, we can't imagine, let alone live such an unstable life. So the psychological trauma is not only felt in Gaza, but all over the world by the family members of every Palestinian. We're literally glued to the TVs, attending to every broadcast attentively, not watching only just for the mere purpose of sympathizing with our brothers and sisters in Palestine, but in the fear of seeing my own cousin's body, my aunt, my mother's relatives whose lives are all in constant danger, just like every Palestinian civil living in Gaza at this moment. I'm just going to conclude by saying that the media is not being fair. The Western media, the Eastern media, yes, they both have their biases, but there needs to be much more awareness. People need to educate themselves to critically observe the situation. Just like Rafiq mentioned, war is not between 2 equal sides. It is the powerful versus the oppressed. And in this day and age, with the internet usage being so high, no one has any excuse to not educate themselves about the trauma, the ridiculousness happening in Gaza right now. It would be shocking if people do not realize the extent that Israel has overstepped its boundaries or even attempt to belittle, excuse, or dismiss the situation. This whole situation needs to be looked from a different lens. Palestinians don't want to occupy all the news headlines. We just want the world to realize what we're going through and that their attention is required if we are to have simple human rights that citizens in other parts of the world take for granted. Nothing more and nothing less. Thank you.